Oh, sorry. Seems that today the ancient god Hypnos may have traded in his sleep-inducing horn for PowerPoint decks. And yep, I was listening to a presentation and it got me. The scary thought is PowerPoint is so overutilized that you might be putting your audience in a daze or to sleep as well. If instead you want to be more like Hermes, the god of communication and messenger to the mortals, stay tuned. Okay, so picture some of these scenarios. Let's have a meeting. Send me a deck. I have an idea. Send me a deck. What's the process, the approach, the strategy? I'll send you a deck. Well, what makes you different from any other company? I'll send you a deck. How do you stop this crazy train? Well, don't be a deck or send a deck. I know what you're thinking. Get your head out of the gutter. I mean it. Don't you do another PowerPoint deck until you've watched this video. Hi, it's Daryl from the DCC group again. And today, if you're struggling with listen to decaphobia or create a decaphobia or read a decaphobia, then I've got some advice for you. And yes, there's probably a one-size-fits-all approach to how to look at all your communications before you decide a deck is or isn't the right thing for you. And I'm going to guess most of the time a deck is not the right thing. So what's the driver behind how do we get decks everywhere-itis? Well, I think it's been a rush to be visual about everything. And that rush to be visual has led to PowerPoint overload. Remember, I said decks can be just as powerful as Hypnos' horn. And before you laugh at that, consider this. Even the mighty Zeus was afraid of Hypnos and the horn. You see, even though the mighty Zeus feared no other god or no other titan, he was afraid. He was afraid of the horn. He was afraid because he knew the horn had the power to render him asleep and powerless. You should be afraid of today's modern day horn, PowerPoint, because it can render your audience inattentive, asleep, or to completely miss the message. In effect, making what you're doing powerless. So I asked some business professionals I work with, what's their reaction to when I say, what do you think about PowerPoints? And here are some of the reactions I got. Not another one. Not again. Listen, they're a little primitive and they kind of seem like unfinished commercials. PowerPoints, well, they kind of stall creative thinking. Let's see. They're a little distracting. Should I be reading or should I be listening? Why not a short memo or an email instead? Why do you have to send me a deck that I now have to read and interpret? Some even said, hey, why'd they choose this template? Or they even went further and said, I had to look through this thing and I could see that there were errors in formatting, spelling, or grammar. Now, I even asked those same people, what about when you have to create a PowerPoint or a deck? And that's where it really got interesting because people responses typically centered something around, dear Lord, not another one. Do you know how much time it takes to create these things? And if I have to present it, how much more time it takes to actually have to practice it? Several people complained that their organization actually doesn't have a standard template style. So they're left on their own to create a template. And then they have to put time and effort into thinking, how does this template look like or look dissimilar or compared to other templates that they've recently seen? I even had one person say, "You gotta be kidding me." And when I asked, "What specifically do you mean by I have to be kidding?" the response was, "Hey, why don't you do this for yourself? Google best PowerPoint template and see how many search results you'll get. There's pages and pages of both free and paid options. Yet there actually isn't any recommendation over what's best," which is absolutely nuts. So now I essentially gave myself a homework assignment to try to find something that fits the message I'm going to create, as opposed to create my message and let it stand. Or if for some reason PowerPoint does work out, then there should be a simple tool to pick that out. Oh, and by the way, AI is not helping with that right now. But I think probably the most effective response for me was one from someone who said, "Now imagine if Abraham Lincoln had to use PowerPoint. How do you think the Gettysburg Address would have worked out?" I'll tell you, it wouldn't have been memorable. Because let's face it, the speaker before him spoke for 2 hours and probably had, I think, somewhere around 13,700 or 800 words. He literally put the people to sleep. And it was an elaborate presentation. On the other hand, Lincoln communicated a message, captured the audience, awakened their imaginations, and incited them to positive thinking and action with just 272 words. That's the length of the Gettysburg Address. And I don't think I've ever seen a PowerPoint as effective or as memorable as those 272 words. So when the tool gets there, then I'll be more excited about it. Whew. So now that we got all that out, what's next? What do we do to reduce our reliance on or simply stop using PowerPoint so often? Well, first and foremost, ask or consider whether there's a better way to communicate. If it's in writing, is that a one-page memo, an email? Or if it's a presentation where you're actually presenting information to a group or an audience, similar to a YouTube video, what's better than a PowerPoint? Maybe just creating the image, or at least giving people a start to create the image so that the message is built around that. If you want to communicate in writing, then my suggestion is a simple one-page memo with some bullet points, direct and to the point, with your action item highlighted, and a quick close. If you're presenting information, then tell people a captivating story. Of course, you can make it fact-based, but don't forget to add some emotional or some personal connection so that people see that it's okay and that you're encouraging personal connection. You see, what's better than any deck is giving your audience a chance to actually participate and connect and bring their input into the message. See, Lincoln captivated hearts and minds by creating an image that they could then interpret and recreate for themselves, both there at Gettysburg and when they left. And for most of us, hundreds of years later. Well, maybe not hundreds, but at least close to a couple hundred. How you really want to spend your time? I'm going to guess it's better to spend 90% of your time on creating the message or the content of what you want to say, and 10% on the how you want to say it. In the attachments, I'm going to give you my version of a communication circle, which I did adapt from something that's similar to what's used in Hollywood. I believe it's called a Dan Hammond or Harmon circle, but it's similar. Both of them probably have existed in one form or another for quite some time, because it's really about creating story imagery. And that's really what's critical in business and personal communications. I think the circle works, and in fact, it's what I use to create this and most of my YouTube videos. Thanks for joining us and watching our video today. And if it's been helpful, give us a like, feel free to subscribe, and certainly share it with someone if you think they could use the message as well. And don't forget to join us down in the comments and let us know your feelings about PowerPoint and other presentation decks. And by the way, don't you go create one just because that's what you're used to doing. Don't you do it. Don't do it.